Guys, it's me, it's Queen Aru, and thank you for joining me for another edition of Ask An Aquarius. If you haven't already, please hit the red subscribe button and smack the bell. So I got a message from a lot of people over the past 3 months, and it's been a reoccurring theme I've seen. They want to know, basically, they're in spiritual systems that they don't want to be in anymore, is the bottom line. But they're afraid to leave them. They're afraid to stop going to these churches or places that they're going to worship. And when I ask them why are they afraid, I'm getting the same three answers over and over again. They're afraid of going to hell, they're afraid of following the wrong religion, and they're afraid of disappointing their family. Now, I totally understand these, because when I first realized that I needed to go on a spiritual journey, that's the first wall I hit. I think for many of us, that's the first wall, especially if you've been raised in one of the Abrahamic traditions. Because if you pay attention to the Abrahamic traditions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, they have a strong, I don't want to say it's a strong focus, but it's a very present focus on going to hell. It's very frightening, especially if you go to one of those fire and brimstone churches and the preacher is always, talking about hell and hellfire and all that kind of stuff. They do drive that home, and it does keep you afraid. It keeps you afraid of worshiping the wrong religion. It keeps you afraid of disappointing your family. It keeps you afraid of going to be in that eternal hellfire that he's talking about. But see, the problem is this. You got to think about the logic to this. This is where the Aquarius comes in. The logic is, and this is how I was able to get out of this. The logic is that number one, there is no right religion. When somebody says, I want to make sure I'm following the right religion, there is no right religion. That's the first mistake that most of us make. We always assume that one of them is right and the rest of them are wrong. And that's not the truth. The truth is that different groups of people found different ways to worship the Supreme Being. That's it. Nobody's way is better than anybody else's way. They tell you that it is because they want you to come join their way. You see? And this has been going, I've been talking about this. This smear campaign has been going on for thousands of years because whoever is in a group wants you to come with their group. It's just like when you have a clique or a sorority. Everybody thinks theirs is the best, but they're all the same. Some of them may do better charity work. Some of them may have, better building to worship in. Some of them have more money, things like that. But there is no one right and true religion. Whenever I hear somebody say that, I'm like, you sound like a fucking sheep. Like you sound like a sheep, and that's you're spitting verbatim something that some old man wrote in a cave 1,000 years ago to get you and those like you to follow their way. That's all it is. There is no one way. And there's really, truthfully, there's only one God. And we're all worshiping the same being, the same creator. But we all of our cultures came up with our own ways to do it. Especially those of us who were separated from each other and had absolutely no contact. But we all came up with ways. That's how you know God is real. Because we all came up with ways to worship this supreme being. They're just different. So there isn't one right way. There's what is right for you. Which way is right for you? Because what happens is that generally in our groups, all of us worship the same way because we taught each other. But now we're in a time period where you're being exposed to ways from many, many, many different cultures. So now you get to choose. It's a little bit more exciting to me because now you get to choose which one you like the most. Now, mind you, your family, who's probably worshiping in the same kind of way or in a similar kind of way, in most cases, your family is going, some of them will be angry. Some of them will be disappointed. I have a Christian aunt that I have the worst time with. Like every time I see her, she comes at me with this righteousness and this judgment, and I want to choke her. but my beliefs tell me not to choke her. You know? So I don't choke her, but I don't like to see her. I don't like to talk to her. I don't go anywhere near her, to be honest with you. If we're in a house full of people, I stay in rooms that she's not in. Seriously, because I know that I'm doing my best to be kind to her. I'm doing my best to, not say anything that's not necessary or unkind to her, and nothing that's spiteful. But I know that the more that she pokes at me with her righteous stick, the more my dragon wants to set her on fire, So I stay away from her. But that's the whole point. It's like people always want to impose their beliefs on you. We live in a day and age now where you can just pick and choose what belief is right for you. And some people aren't going to be pleased with you not picking their way. Some people are not going to be pleased with you not being in their clique, in their group. You see? But you don't have to be. I don't have to be in her clique. I don't have to be in her group. I don't want to be, and I don't have to be. And some of the times you're going to disappoint your family. You have to get over that. Because to be an adult means to make decisions that sometimes other people don't agree with. And that's okay. That's going to happen throughout your lifetime. You're always going to have things come up. I was listening to Dean Graziosi, and he was talking about how him and his father had a business together. And he decided that he wanted to expand the business to towing cars. And his father thought it was a horrible idea. They got into a nasty argument about it. And Dean went and did it anyway. And a couple months later, his father was like, "Oh my God, you're a genius. This was a great idea." He didn't know. He didn't see the vision, but Dean did. So a lot of times the people around you are not going to see the vision. They're not going to see what you see. They're not going to understand what you understand. But that's okay. They don't have to. So don't be afraid to disappoint family. Don't be afraid to disappoint loved ones. Don't be afraid to disappoint your kids. Don't be afraid of any of that, because you will disappoint people sometimes. It's called life. And if you're a grown-up and you're making decisions, and if you're following your gut instinct and you're following your guidance from your creator and from your ancestors and from your spirits, sometimes people around you are not going to be getting the memo. And they're not going to know what you're doing until it's already done. And they see it and they're like, "Oh, wow, look what she did." Some people will never understand why you're not going to the mosque with them, why you're not going to the temple with them, why you're not going to church with them. Some people are never going to understand, and they're never going to accept it. And that's their problem, not yours. Okay? So when it comes to family, disappointing them, oh well, boop. Deal with it. They just got to deal with it. And then when it comes to the right religion, we've got that down pat. There isn't one. It's just whatever one you want to be in. And when it comes to going to hell, you're not going to go to hell. Hell comes along with being a part of the Christian paradigm and believing that you're going to go to hell if you don't do what the other Christians tell you to do. And that's a bunch of shit. It's bullshit. It's not going to happen. You're not going to hell because you didn't listen and worship the way that all the other Christians did. The only time you're really in hell is when you're not honoring what God is telling you to do. So if Goddess or God or Creator or the universe is pulling you in a direction towards a spiritual system that others don't understand, or towards worshiping in a way that others don't understand, that's when you're in hell. When you're going against what Goddess is telling you to do because of what the humans are telling you to do. You can't ignore Goddess and listen to her creations. Her creations don't know better than her. The creation doesn't know nothing. The creation is just trying to figure things out. You have to listen to what God is telling you. And you cannot go against that for any reason. Not fear, not loneliness, none of those things. Goddess would not tell you to do something that was going to be wrong for you or bad for you. You have to trust your gut instinct, and you have to trust the divine source that's coming through you. You got to trust. And if other people don't understand, that's their problem. And once you get that understanding down, and you're cool with that, because this took me a little while to come around to, mind you. But once I got that understanding, because I was afraid too. Trust me, I was afraid for a long time. But then once I started to get that understanding and I started to read history, if once I started to read the history of Christianity, and this is something you might want to do, everything was like, like, are you serious? Like, once I started to read the history and see the truth, it just opened up everything to me. It was just like, oh my God, you've been lied to all this time. The history books tell the whole story from beginning to end. And it's not even hard to find. You can find it online. They tell the whole story. And you've been lied to about pagans. You've been lied to about a lot of stuff. And when you sit there and read the history of the Christian church and you just read it, you're like, this is some bullshit. They've been lying to us just to get our money. Seriously, that's what it's all about. It's about having souls at the church who come with tithes. That's what it was all about. That's how it all first started. And for some, it's exactly what it's about. So one thing that may also help you is to really read the history of religion and spirituality and the church, because then you're going to see, like, wow, look at all these lies. So that's my answer to you. Those are the ways that you do it. No, it's not fast. No, it's not easy. It's an internal mental process. And you gradually get more and more okay with it because you've been conditioned since you were born to be afraid. You've been conditioned since day one to be scared. So it's going to take you a little bit of time. But if you do the things that I mentioned, it should help a lot. See you later.